Welcome to the American Garage. Okay, car disassembly is now complete. We've got everything apart that we need to, and we can get at all the pieces that need to go back together. We ended up digging a little deeper into the car than I first expected, but whenever you have a problem, there's usually more problems beneath those problems, and that was the case here. We had to take the oil pan off in order to get the flange off the front of the engine, and then once we got all that undone, then we could get everything else off. So we've got the cams shafts out of the car, we've got the front flange off, and everything is ready to be cleaned and put back together with the new parts. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use a razor blade, and I'm going to very carefully scrape all the old gasket and adhesive off of all the mating surfaces for all the gaskets. Okay, so I got everything cleaned. I'm taking a good rag and I'm using just a little bit of carburetor cleaner, and I'm going over my surfaces now that I've got them all cleaned to make sure there's no residues or any varnish from the oil on it. So now let's put our gaskets back in. We're going to start with our little half moon, and we'll put some sealant in there to make sure it doesn't leak. Okay, now the camshafts go back in. Now we're going to put the front flange in. Next goes the water pump. Alright, so we're going to put the thermostat in. Now, when we put the thermostat in, we want to make sure that this little valve, the relief valve, is on the top and facing out. And that goes in first, facing up. And then we'll put our O-ring on. This was the piece that was leaking on the back here. The seal was leaking, so I bought a new one, and we'll put this one in. Alright, we'll put our sprocket back in. Make sure that the key lines up exactly. Now we've got our brand new bolt. We never reuse this one. This one always gets replaced when you take it out. So the reassembly is going beautifully, but I wanted to stop here and point out some very important little aspects of the reassembly. Now, where we're at now is we've got the front flange back on, we've got all the seals in the engine, we've got the valve covers back on, and I've got everything loosely put in place for the timing belt. And I wanted to point a few things out to you right now. Now, I've left it all loose, especially these sprockets. See how the sprockets just spin? Now, you'll notice, if you look closely, that the actual camshafts are not moving at all. And these spin. They don't have a little key on them like the main sprocket does. That's going to be an advantage for us when we're trying to get everything lined up. Now, of course, once we cinch these things down, they're going to be tight on there. But we want to have everything aligned before we cinch these down so that these will be in the right place. Now, they don't have to be keyed and they don't have to be any specific position, but what they do have to do is they have to be in a place where the teeth line up with the teeth on our brand new timing belt. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosely put the timing belt on first and make sure it lines up properly, and then we're going to cinch these down. I'll show you how we'll do that in just a minute. But before we get there, I wanted to show you something. Now, whenever we replace a timing belt, we always want to replace the tensioner, the tensioning arm, little tensioning arm. Now, this tensioner pulley has this bolt in it. Now, this is specific to this kind of car, but I want to tell you about this bolt because it's very, very, very important. Now, this bolt is a one-time only use bolt. It only gets about 7 foot-pounds of torque, or 25 Nm if you're doing metric. Now, that's not very much. I mean, you can do that, put that much torque on just by going like this with your hand. Now, the temptation is, well, that doesn't seem like very much. Let's just give it a little bit more. Don't do that, okay? This bolt can only take just that much and no more. And what would happen if you over torque this bolt to try to make sure it's not going to come out is it will shear. It will shear off, and this little guy right here will not be in its place, but it'll go flying over here somewhere. You'll lose your timing. The timing belt will jump, and you'll ruin the engine. So this little bolt is very, very critical that you get it right, okay? Don't over torque it, okay? Now, with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and put the new timing belt on again. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do, with everything is in place, but it's loose. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the timing belt in the bottom sprocket. I'm going to make sure that the teeth all line up with the sprocket teeth real nicely, without any gaps or any skipping. Okay. We'll go around the right side first. Now we'll go around the left side. And we've got the timing belt in place, and the sprockets here are loose, and I adjusted these so that they're perfectly vertical. I've got my bolts in here. Put our bracket on. There. Now with my bracket in place, now I know that my camshafts are not going to move at all. And I've double checked that they were perfectly vertical, and so everything looks like it's in time here. This is in time here. Now I check and make sure that on my timing belt no tooth has been skipped, and so everything is fitting snugly where it should. Okay, now I'm ready to start tightening things up. Okay, we got it torqued in place. Now we can take our bracket off. We've cinched these down to 40 pounds. Turns out the foot-pound equivalent of this is 18 foot-pounds, no more on that one. This one takes 25, and everything else has been taken care of. Now we're ready to close it all up. remember we had to take the oil pan off because the front flange was leaking, and the bottom two bolts on the flange are inside the engine underneath the oil pan. Okay, we're at that point. All there is left to do is finish putting her back together and start her up. Okay, now we've got the car completely back together. So now it's time to reconnect the battery. There we are. We got some covers and things, but I'm not going to put those on until after we've test run the engine. The only things that we have left now are to put new oil in the car, some antifreeze, and put the new tires on and take it off the jacks. So let's do that part first. Let's get the wheels on the ground, and then we'll put some oil in. Well, we've come to the end of this project. Tomorrow we'll put some oil in the car, wash it, take it out and run it. Make sure everything's going well. Well, this has been quite a project, as you can tell. I'm beat, I'm dirty, I've probably ruined 2 pairs of clothes, but we've got a good running car now. And tomorrow we will verify that and make sure that all our leaks are sealed up. So thanks for joining me on this project on the American Garage, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.